February nights have a strange silence, the kind that feels heavier than darkness itself. The cold doesn't just touch your skin, it seeps into your thoughts. People say February is the month of love, but those who stay awake at night know the truth. February remembers things that should have been forgotten. I lived alone in a small apartment near my college campus. Exams were close, and sleep had become optional. That night, the clock on my desk showed 2:14 a.m. when the heaters suddenly shut off. The room went cold instantly, my breath turning visible in the air. I wrapped my blanket tighter and told myself it was just a power issue. Then I heard it. A knock. Soft. Slow. 3 taps. No one ever visited me at night. I stood up, my heart beating faster, and walked toward the door. Before I could reach it, the knocking stopped. Instead, I heard footsteps moving down the hallway outside my apartment. Bare footsteps. Slow dragging. I opened the door. The hallway lights were flickering, casting long shadows on the walls. No one was there, but the air felt wrong. Too cold. Too still. I was about to close the door when I noticed something on the floor. Wet footprints. They were leading away from my door, but they weren't normal. They were narrow, twisted, and unnaturally long. I followed them with my eyes until they stopped right in front of the stairwell. A sudden chill ran down my spine. I went back inside and locked the door. My phone buzzed on the desk. A notification from an unknown number. Don't open the door again. My hands trembled as I typed back, asking who it was. The message was instantly marked as read, but no reply came. That night, I didn't sleep. At exactly 3 a.m., I heard breathing outside my door. Slow. Deep, patient, as if something was waiting, and it knew I was awake. The next morning, I convinced myself it was stress. Hallucinations caused by lack of sleep. Still, the cold footprints refused to leave my mind. I asked the building guard if anyone had been walking around at night. He looked at me strangely. Beta, he said quietly. February nights. No one walks these halls after midnight. I laughed nervously and went to class, but the feeling followed me. Every lecture felt distant, every sound too loud. By evening, the sky turned gray, heavy with fog. February was tightening its grip. That night, I decided to stay awake on purpose. At 1:59 a.m., my room temperature dropped again. The heater didn't turn off this time. It simply stopped working. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tonight, it will knock again. My throat went dry. I sat on my bed, staring at the door. 2:14 a.m. Knock. 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 Louder this time. I didn't move. The door handle slowly began to turn, even though it was locked. A shadow appeared under the door, too tall, too thin. Then came the whisper. You opened it once. Tears filled my eyes as I covered my ears. The whisper turned into scratching, long nails dragging across wood. I screamed for help, but no sound came out of my mouth. Suddenly, silence. I checked my phone. Another message. If you survive February, you'll never forget me. In the mirror across the room, something moved. It was standing behind me, smiling, and it was wearing my face. I don't remember fainting, but when I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight filled the room, and everything looked normal. Too normal. The mirror showed only me. I skipped college that day and searched online for the apartment's history. What I found made my blood run cold. 5 years ago, a student had died here in February, found frozen in his room, door locked from the inside. The report said hypothermia, but neighbors claimed he was screaming at someone who wasn't there. His last message on social media haunted me. Someone knocks every night. That night, I packed my bags. I was leaving. I didn't care where. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You can't leave until February ends. The lights went out. The door began to knock, violently this time. The walls trembled. Frost formed on the windows, crawling inward like living veins. The whisper returned, louder than ever. Stay. I felt my body grow heavy, my movements slow, as if the cold was pulling me down. The mirror cracked. Inside it, I saw dozens of versions of myself, each one pale, frozen, screaming silently. February wasn't a month. It was a trap. I don't know how many nights passed after that. Time stopped meaning anything. The knocking never stopped. Sometimes it came from the door, sometimes from inside the walls, sometimes from inside my head. On the last night of February, the unknown number sent one final message. Open the door. Take my place. I understood then. It needed someone to stay. Someone warm. At exactly 3 a.m., the knocking stopped. Silence. I opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the cold vanished instantly. My phone screen went dark. The heater turned on. March had begun. I moved out the next day. Years have passed since then. I live far away now. But every February night, at 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzes, even though the number doesn't exist. And somewhere, someone hears a knock. Soft. Slow. 3 taps. February never forgets. February nights were never silent where I lived. The wind always whispered through the trees outside my rented house. But this year, the silence felt intentional, like something was listening. I had shifted to this town for my final year of college. The house was old but cheap, and February made everything colder than usual. On my first night there, the landlord had said something strange before leaving. Never sleep before midnight in February, he warned, smiling nervously. I laughed it off. That night, at exactly 12:41 a.m., my wall clock stopped ticking. The room felt unnaturally quiet. No wind, no street noise, just me and my breathing. Then I heard footsteps on the roof. Slow, careful, as if someone was counting their steps. I froze. This was a single-story house. No one should have been up there. The footsteps moved from one end of the roof to the other, then stopped directly above my bedroom. Dust fell from the ceiling. I reached for my phone, but the screen showed no signal. A soft sound followed. Someone humming. It was a low, broken tune, sad, unfamiliar, and deeply unsettling. The humming slowly turned into whispering, though I couldn't understand the words. My bedroom door creaked open by itself. Cold air rushed in, sharp enough to hurt my lungs. In the doorway stood a shadow darker than the darkness behind it. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. The humming stopped. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. February has chosen you. I screamed, and suddenly the lights turned on. The door slammed shut. The clock began ticking again. Morning sunlight made everything look normal. But on the ceiling above my bed, 3 deep scratch marks remained, fresh and wet. February had noticed me. I didn't tell anyone what happened that night. How could I? Instead, I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was exhaustion. But February nights don't like being ignored. The next evening, I found muddy footprints leading from my front door into the house. They stopped in the middle of the living room. Barefoot, I followed them with my eyes, my chest tightening. There were no prints leading back out. At 12:41 a.m., the humming returned. This time, it came from inside the walls. I pressed my ear against the wall, and the sound stopped instantly. Then came knocking, from behind the wall, slow and deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. Each knock felt like it was hitting my chest instead of the wall. My phone vibrated. A message appeared from an unknown number. You heard us last year too. My hands shook. I had never lived here before. Before I could reply, the lights went out. The temperature dropped so fast that frost formed on the windows. The knocking turned into scratching, long nails dragging across concrete. Then I heard breathing behind me. Hot. Close. I turned around. The shadow from the doorway was inside the room now, taller than before. Its shape shifted, stretching unnaturally, and slowly it raised what looked like an arm, too thin, too long. The voice returned, clearer now. You sleep. We wake. I ran outside without shoes, without a jacket, not caring where I went. Behind me, the house stayed completely dark, as if it didn't exist. When I looked at my phone again, the message had changed. February nights need witnesses. I stayed at a friend's place for 2 nights, but the humming followed me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that shadow standing at the foot of my bed. On the 3rd night, my friend shook me awake. You were talking in your sleep, he said. You kept saying, don't let February in. I went back to the house the next day to pack my things. The air inside felt heavier, like the house was breathing. The scratch marks on the ceiling were gone, but something new had appeared. Dates were carved into the wall, February dates. Every year. Hundreds of them. Next to each date was a single name. Some names were scratched out. Some were circled. My name was written at the bottom. Circled. At 12:41 a.m., the door locked itself. The humming returned, louder than ever, echoing from every room. Shadows leaked from corners, joining together until they formed shapes, human, but wrong. The voice spoke again. Every February, one stays awake forever. The walls began to bleed dark water. The floor turned icy beneath my feet. I felt my strength fading, the cold crawling into my bones. The shadows moved closer. I realized then, the landlord's warning wasn't about sleep. It was about survival. February nights don't kill you. They keep you. On the final night of February, the house was silent. No humming. No shadows. At 12:41 a.m., the front door slowly opened by itself. Outside was nothing but darkness. Thick, endless, alive. The voice whispered softly, "Step out. Let March take your place." I understood the truth too late. Someone had escaped before by leaving another behind. The names on the wall weren't victims. They were replacements. The shadows rose around me, wrapping gently, almost lovingly. The cold no longer hurt. It felt comforting. As the clock struck 12:42 a.m., the darkness swallowed me. Morning came. The house looked empty again. A new tenant moved in the next day. The landlord smiled nervously and gave the same advice. Never sleep before midnight in February. That night, at exactly 12:41 a.m., the clock stopped ticking, and somewhere inside the walls, I began to hum. February nights in my town were known for fog. Thick, white fog that erased roads, buildings, and sometimes people. I never believed those stories until the night my window started knocking from the outside. I lived on the third floor of an old apartment building. There were no balconies, no fire escapes, nothing that could explain the slow tapping sound on my glass at 1:58 a.m. Tap, tap, tap. My heart pounded as I sat up in bed. The fog outside pressed against the window like a living wall. I pulled the curtain back slightly. There was a hand. Pale, thin, long fingers bent at impossible angles. It was tapping gently, patiently, as if it knew I would eventually look. I jumped back, my breath caught in my throat. When I looked again, the hand was gone, but a message had appeared on the fogged glass. "Let me in before 2. Before I could react, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't trust what knocks during February nights. The tapping returned, louder now. I noticed something terrifying. The hand left no reflection in the glass. It didn't belong to anything human. The clock ticked closer to 2 a.m. Outside, something whispered my name. I didn't sleep that night. At exactly 2 a.m., the tapping stopped, and the fog slowly pulled back from the window like it was retreating. The next morning, I asked my neighbor about the fog. Her face turned pale. "People disappear in February," she said quietly. "They hear knocking where knocking shouldn't exist." That night, the fog returned earlier. 1:41 a.m. This time, the knocking came from my bedroom door. Slow and respectful, like someone asking permission. My phone vibrated again. Unknown number. If it enters, it copies. The door handle moved slightly. I backed away, my pulse racing. The whisper returned, softer now, almost kind. "It's cold outside." The room temperature dropped sharply. Frost crept across the floor. The knocking turned desperate, faster, angry. I noticed footprints forming on the floor, wet, barefoot, leading from the door toward me. I screamed when the door cracked open by itself. Standing there was me. Same face, same clothes, but its smile was wrong. "You were late," it said. I don't know how I escaped. I remember running, down the stairs, through the fog, my chest burning from the cold air. The next day, I returned with police. My apartment was empty. No fog, no footprints, no damage. But my phone still showed the messages. That night, I stayed at a hotel. At 1:58 a.m., the fire alarm went off. In the hallway, fog poured from every room. People ran and screamed, but one by one, they stopped, staring at something behind me. I felt breathing on my neck. "You let it see you," the voice whispered. Now it knows your shape. Mirrors in the hallway began to crack. Inside each one, I saw myself knocking on glass, begging to be let in. I realized the truth too late. February nights don't take strangers. They replace them. I survived by smashing every mirror I could find. When morning came, the fog vanished. Weeks later, February ended. I moved cities, changed my number, changed everything. But every year, on the first February night, my window fogs up, even on warm evenings. And a message appears, still warm inside. Last night, my reflection smiled back at me. It tapped on the glass. Slow, gentle, patient. I don't know how many February nights I have left, because it's learning. And next time, it won't knock.